you turn into the person that everyone else looks at and says, man, how is Annika crushing it? So like, what has she done? What has she figured it out? You respected yourself before you respected everyone else. There's enough to go around. But if you respect everyone else and put yourself last, you're screwed.
Step into the world of success with your brand amplified, the ultimate podcast designed to unravel the intricacies of thriving businesses. I'm your host, Annika Jackson, and I'm on a mission to uncover the stories, strategies, and secrets that have propelled entrepreneurs and business leaders to success.
Something that's been on my mind a lot, especially as I sit here, but as of recording this, it's almost the end of February. I've been feeling sick, I think twice this year already, burned out, trying to figure out when I can fit in like time to actually relax in my schedule. And the guest that I'm having on right now, Colby Wegter, is an expert in this very topic as an agency owner. So Colby, thank you so much for being here, first and foremost.
Thanks, Annika. I am excited to chat with you and honored to be here.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about your background. You are an agency owner, you've had partners, and your story with me kind of starts at that point of burnout and exhaustion. But let's go back to marketing, automations. Was this always something that you wanted to get into?
No, yeah. I was listening to other episodes of your podcast, and it seemed like everyone like knew exactly like what they meant to do when they were, an adolescent. And I was the classic person, like had no clue what I was trying to do up until my early 30s, probably. But yeah, did fall into marketing after being a failed elementary school teacher. That was kind of my first run with burnout, kind of a unique story there, if you want to hear it or not.
I definitely want to hear it.
Okay, then we can start there real quick. Is basically, I grew up in a super small town kind of area. I actually grew up on a farm, like gravel road, no air conditioning house, that kind of thing, middle of nowhere. And so my worldview was really small. And so I only really saw like farmers and teachers. And I was like, well, I don't want to be a farmer. So I went to school to be a teacher and then got my first teaching job in Brooklyn in New York after I told them, like, I had visited and I was like, I have to live here within a couple hours. So I made that happen, got to teaching. 2 weeks in, half the staff quit. And so then I was in charge of like 100 students with no skills.
Yeah. They talk about half the staff quit.
Yeah. So because it was my first job out of college, I was hired as an assistant teacher. And so I was going to be like, being an extra set of hands in the 5th and 6th grade classrooms. But then, yeah, within a couple of weeks, half of our team quit for sure. And then several others in other grades quit, which I wasn't directly affected by, aside from, hey, extra recess duty and lunchroom duty and that kind of stuff. But yeah, so I didn't have the tools for it to last very long. And I lasted way longer than 2 weeks by comparison. But I also, I went into teaching kind of thinking, oh, this is something I should do because my worldview was so small and then wasn't like destined or, wasn't incredibly passionate about it. And so obviously that was a very stressful situation, not having any experience and then falling into that. So I lasted about 4.5 months before I was just like completely burned out, like couldn't keep food down, wasn't sleeping kind of thing.
Wow.
And so I just kind of left without a plan. And that's how I fell into marketing a few months later. Was I got into blog writing for a digital reputation company because I always enjoyed writing. So I was like, oh, this will be a good medium for me to write the next great American novel or something, get my chops. And yeah, I've been in marketing ever since. So zero plan to do it, but that's how it fell into place, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I see, obviously you had skills. If you're going to be a teacher, you have to know how to write, you have to know how to read, you have to know logic. There are a lot of constructs that you have to know about that naturally could progress into something like a marketing role. Right. And understanding, how to sell something to people, because you're having to, especially 5th and 6th grade, you're having to sell the material to these kids all day long.
Yeah, I wasn't very good at selling to those kiddos, that's for sure. I've gotten a lot of skills in great thanks to that experience, of course, of just realizing like, you can't do everything. And I think that was a position where, I hadn't established that yet. So.
Well, and it sounds also like, there were obviously some fundamental issues with the school if that many people quit immediately. And so.
Yeah, it was just tough. It was a charter school. It was in the middle of Bedford Stuyvesant is how I say it because I'm from the Midwest. Stuyvesant, if you want to say that. And so I was like one of only a few white people there. Like none of the students were white and that sort of stuff, which I was really excited about coming from the exact opposite. Small town, there was like no other ethnicities. And so I was like thrilled to be in New York and have this worldview. And I've lived in cities ever since. So, I have a 4-year-old and he's like been taught by more people of a different ethnicity than his own in his whole life. And I love that because, I was 18 before I experienced much of that. Right. And so I didn't obviously know what I was getting myself into in terms of kind of the intricacies of the role, but I knew that it was going to be completely different. And I was very accepting of that. It turned out to be a lot harsher of a reality with the staff kind of mobilization than I expected.
Oh my gosh. So then but you did in that time, that short time that you were in a new city, you met enough people that you were able to find a new gig and kind of move into this new field.
Yeah, I basically was just kind of the classic look for a job and I was going to take anything. It took me a couple months. And so then I stumbled across like an internship. It wasn't even like a full job. It was like a blog writing internship at this company who was hanging out in Chinatown at the time. And that was like a 20-minute walk from, I was in the Lower East Side. And so it worked out where I was like writing blogs for this company called Brand Yourself for 30 days or so. And then I was like one of only 15-ish people there, 12 people there. And I looked around and I was just like, I think I can do their job too. And so, because they were managing clients and building websites and that sort of stuff. And I was like, this doesn't look that hard. And so I was like, can I just have a full-time job? And they were like, yeah, sure, whatever. And so it worked out. And so, yeah, the cool thing about Brand Yourself is like I ended up being employee 12 there. And we were, a bunch of tables, startup culture in this Chinatown office, like above a coffee shop and a banh mi shop. Mm-hmm. And then it turned into, before I left, it was like 60 plus employees. We had ended up on Shark Tank and all that fun stuff. I wasn't personally there, but obviously our CEO and founder was there. And so that was a really cool experience of just like completely opposite of the teaching role, which was very structured. And this was kind of just like build it as you go sort of vibe.
Yeah. And you got to see what worked and what didn't work when you start a business. So I'm sure that became very helpful for you as your trajectory continued.
Yeah, and still then I didn't really know what I was meant for or what I cared about or any of that, but I did enjoy building it. That was kind of what transitioned, my desire to start my own company in little like seeds planted there for sure of like, how would I want to do this? And it was almost like, hey, I'm employee 12. What would happen if I was employee 1 or 2 or 3? Right. And so that's kind of where my last full-time gig before I started Autonomy Agency came from. That was 9 years of building that, being basically, employee 1.
Yeah, fantastic. So you got burnout once, moved into a totally different world of agency life, marketing, SEO, blogs. You had some of, then you were employee number 1. You worked through some of your own agencies, ventures. What's the next burnout point?
So the next burnout point was basically 6-ish years, 6.5 into the agency. We got to global top 1,000 in the world, which is cool, global, right? And it was a digital marketing agency. And so, yeah, we had just hit our first million with only 4 people. And I was responsible for managing all the clients at the time. And kind of the feather in my cap in terms of my career is every agency I ever went to, I always like had twice the amount of clients or 3 or 4 times the amount of clients and would still get my work done faster than anybody else because I just seemed to like have good systems or at least philosophies, or, in startup culture just wasn't on YouTube. Like I was actually working, you know what I mean? That kind of stuff. So that's basically how we operated with this agency. Is up until about 45 clients, we didn't really hire anybody. And so I was just managing the 45. And then, so the year we hit a million, I burnt out working, stupid hours, like 70-hour weeks. And because one of the founding members, like we were about to hire. And so I was doing all the job descriptions and interviewing. And then of course, when those people came in, then I had to manage them as well. And we were like building a handbook at the time. We were building comp packages at the time, like all these things. Right. And I also wrote like 150,000 plus words in a handful of months for our website to bring in more leads and stuff. So it's no one's fault but my own. I said yes to everything. Right. And so it was kind of one of those, outwardly we looked successful and we're continuing to be. Inwardly, I was like, I would love a nap. This sounds amazing. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
So that was the first one. And that happened in 2022, like springtime. And so I ended up going back to New York for a week just to chill out and like, where's my happy place? And so I just got an Airbnb and did nothing for a week, just like only left to go eat food essentially, and thought I was better. And then by December that same year, I burnt out the second time. And so it's kind of like I learned nothing from the spring to the winter. And then that was kind of when everything shifted, was basically December 27, 2022 was when I started making changes, let's say.
Yeah. Yeah. And what was the biggest change that you made at that moment?
Well, I stopped saying yes to everything. It was kind of one of those things, like for me, everything I'll say, Annika, is incredibly simple, but kind of excruciatingly difficult to to execute if you overthink it. But I wasn't in overthinking mode. I was so just like, this is terrible. Whatever I've done these last 7 years, basically, I'm going to do the exact opposite. Because if this is what it gets me, I'm not interested, right? And so I was averaging like 20 plus hours of meetings every single week, right? So I just sent one email to everyone and said, I'm not taking meetings except on these 2 blocks throughout the week. It was Tuesday and Thursday afternoons. If you send me one anytime outside of this block, I will politely decline, right?
Yeah.
And I thought everyone would be angry. And to be honest, I was so burnt out, I didn't honestly care. I was like, I press send being like, if they're angry, they're angry. I got to do something.
Wow.
And no one got angry. Everyone was like applauding the decision, right? And so you do that one time and you're like, oh, okay, a bomb didn't go off. And then it was, what else can I do? And so then you start to delegate to those people I had hired and just be okay with them being terrible at it and breaking stuff and all that sort of stuff, because you have to put up with the short-term pain for the long-term gain. So a whole bunch of stuff, once the meeting thing happened and delegating, I was like, oh, I'm not actually doing this anymore. I applied boundaries and constraints. So when I would answer messages, I stopped being a search engine. I wouldn't respond in minutes. I applied again, incredibly simple. I applied what I call the 2-hour rule. If anybody slacked me anything, I forced myself to not answer for 2 hours. And again, it was kind of out of self-preservation, but what I learned with that after doing it for a little while was about like 80% of the time when I went to answer the message, it was like, never mind, figured it out.
Yeah.
And it was just one of those things where it's like, oh, so if I just introduce a time gap to the problem, then I don't have to solve the problem, right? And so it was just like little tiny, changes here and there that compounded until after basically 12 months, not only did I get my work week down, I was so obsessive after a while. I got it down from like 70 hours to 8 hours a week because I was systems and monitoring instead of doing. But the crazy thing was the company went from stuck at $1 million to we basically more than doubled revenue in 12 months. Like it took us 6.5 years to get to $1 million and we got to 2.5, 12 months later. So it's just one of those things where it's like, oh, I was the problem. Like I was everything. Because I was the bottleneck to everything, I could only take it so far. It's not because I wasn't talented. It's because I was getting in the way.
Yeah. It's so interesting because I've been having this conversation, I feel, a lot this week, in that a lot of times as leaders of an organization, we are the bottlenecks. If we don't know how to say no, right? We say yes because we know how to do a lot of different things. Then it takes a lot longer to get these things done because we're trying to juggle everything at the same time. We're not giving other people learning opportunities to, like you said, make those mistakes, break things a few times, and then skill up or find the solution themselves. Google it instead of using you as the human Google, right? Or the human search engine.
Yeah, 100%.
So,
and when I tell my clients that now, because I help people who were me, they say sell to yourself from a couple of years ago. And that's what I ended up doing, even though I was completely resistant to it and didn't want to do it. And then it was like, I guess I need to do this because it's like what I'm meant to do kind of thing. But yeah, if I tell them the 2-hour rule, they think I'm crazy. They're like, well, what's going to happen in that 2 hours? Something's going to start on fire. But no, it's like the reason it feels like a fire at all is because you answer it right away. Right. So it's a lot of it's kind of unlearning and perception changing. And it's really hard to do when you're stuck in the weeds. Like agency owners are probably the most stuck in the weeds profession you could ever get, honestly.
Yeah, that's not a lie. So how did you get down to 8 hours? And is that what you teach people, or do you teach people, 20 hours, 30 hours?
Yeah. So obviously I never want to overpromise and underdeliver. I've had
Mm.
too many clients in my career to know that like I would much rather set a very clear and achievable expectation and then exceed it. And so my core promise with Autonomy Agency, which just helps six-figure agency owners working over 50 hours a week get to seven figures working 30 hours a week.
Nice.
Right. So my guarantee, because obviously, if someone's at six figures and they're only at $150,000 a year or something, I'm not saying, hey, this year you're going to go from 150 to a million, because a lot of that depends on you and your talent. But my guarantee is if you don't increase revenue and get to a 30-hour work week, I work with you for free until you do. Right. So we're trying to attack both sides of basically being like the perception is, especially among agency owners, is hustle now to chill later. Do more to get more.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just categorically false. Like, much like you said earlier, there's this book called Essentialism, which I recommend anybody read, but there's this graphic in there where it's two circles, and in the middle of the circle, it says energy. One circle has like 12 arrows sticking out of it, only like tiny arrows. And then the other circle has just one long arrow sticking out of it in one direction. Every time I show that to someone who I could work with, who I think might be a good fit, like I'll just pull it up on my screen and I'll be like, so this is you, right? And they look at it and they're like, oh yeah, I am saying yes to a million things. The book describes that circle with a bunch of tiny arrows sticking out of it as you're gaining a millimeter of progress in dozens of directions.
Interesting.
And so when you focus on the trivial many, like your to-do list, like going to every single meeting, like answering every single message, like all that sort of stuff, and what you're doing, if you do that over and over, is you're basically calcifying a bad habit. It's kind of like when James Clear in Atomic Habits says you have positive votes and negative votes. If you just keep doing everything, you're applying negative votes to what really matters here. And so to answer your question directly, like I honestly see my role, and I've said this to every single person I've ever worked with, is like, you already know the answer. I'm not giving you a new answer. I'm giving you permission to pursue the answer. Right? It's like, because you're stuck in your own head, you need someone almost kind of yanking you by the collar and saying, no, it's okay. Your life's not going to explode if you do it or don't do it, more specifically. And that's why I named it Autonomy Agency, because to me, autonomy is being able to say yes or no without fear. And I think a lot of these agency owners are stuck in fear. If I do less, I make less money.
Right.
If I don't email the client right away, they'll leave. So that is not a healthy place to live.
No. And as you said, in your previous agency, you went from $1 million in revenue after 6 years to doubling the following year because you put systems into place and you started trusting other people to do the work.
Yeah. And that's the other thing I stand on too, is I don't, somebody could hear that and they'd be like, oh, okay, you just made a lot more sales or something like that. I want to be really clear. We did not double our client roster when we did that.
Yeah.
Right. So I think my role for anyone even listening to this, right, here's a bit of free advice, is literally like, when you do too much and you are stretched so thin, think a 50-hour work week or 60 or 70 or whatever. I have 3 young kids. Like, work is way easier than home life because they're all 4 and under. Like, they're yelling all the time. Like, I was making lunch not long before this call and my 1-year-old was just hugging my legs. Like, I couldn't get to the microwave to heat up, the lunch or whatever, the leftovers. So it's fine. Anyways, sidetrack. But like, I think if you don't give yourself time to think, you accomplish so little.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so the big change for me and how in terms of the revenue, I would attribute it to thinking. I had more time to think, and therefore I had like a healthier and more energetic place to solve the problem. Why are we capped in revenue? My deduction, because I didn't like chasing prospects. I don't like front end sales. I'm learning it as I go with my own business now, like officially solopreneur style business. I enjoy it because of the message, right? But like, objectively, front end sales isn't that fun. And so at that time, I was like, I don't want to do this. So what would I do? I looked at, we have 45 clients here. Are we getting maximum benefit out of them? No. And so I stopped getting on calls, but every single call I did get on was like agenda first. Hey, I think I noticed this thing. Can we talk about just this one thing? Get on the call. if there were a way to solve said problem, would you want me to explain it, provide that solution, whatever? Easy, yes. They already know, like, and trust me. Hop on another 15-minute call to present the solution. Sale. I called it like basically active listening. What problems do you have? And then I called it a beta offer because I wanted it to be really low stakes. It's like, hey, we're doing this. This is what you're currently paying us for. We're crushing it, right? Cool, sweet. You have other marketing problems. Cool, sweet. What are they? Active listening. They tell you, okay, if there were a way to solve that, could I put that into, say, like a slide deck and call it a beta program? And what is that? Would you want to look at something like that? Yes, curiosity. Make sure the slide deck looks good and solves the problem. Cool. How much? Higher price than usual because it's extra work.
Nice.
So like we did that with over 50% of our clients, whether it was a couple $100 or like my most successful one was we had a client paying us like a $5,000 SEO retainer monthly. And they wanted basically multi-channel marketing. They wanted help with email and social and all that stuff as well. And I was like, okay, so if there were a way, beta program, blah, blah, blah. I pitched it just south of $15,000 per month. They said yes.
Yeah. Well, number one, I love that example. And also the fact that you use the word beta, but you increase the prices above what you might normally, ask for is genius because most people think beta, they think, all right, so it's going to be like a lower price offer. You're just testing and iterating. You're using me as a guinea pig. But that actually wasn't the case. So you were able to make these upsells, but because you're able to show people where they had a hole in their strategy.
Yeah. And I think I'm so fascinated with offers like the clients I have right now, Autonomy Agency itself is only, I told you before we hit record, like 7 weeks old, right? So I have 6 clients, which I feel incredibly lucky to be serving, and I'm very selective. They're all A players, so they're crushing it already and all that sort of stuff. But I never expected that we would go as deep on offers as we have, but every single one of my clients right now is basically creating a blue ocean offer, which if you don't know what a blue ocean is, it's a market in which you're not competing with anyone else because it's so unique. You're category of one, right? And so looking backwards, I wouldn't have ever thought this, nor did I read Blue Ocean Strategies or whatever the book is called back then. That's essentially what I was doing with these clients is because I had time to think. Again, I cannot overestimate that. I cannot time to think is amazing. Let's put it that way because I can't find the words I'm looking for. I wasn't only looking at how can I offer more? Because of all the agency owners, of all the agency owners I've talked to a couple hundred. That's why I started Autonomy Agency in the last 2 years because I was like, I need to know that there's a problem that I should solve. I'm not just going to do it because I want to, right? Like I spoke with somebody last week who left corporate because he didn't like how he was treated. So now he's starting his business. I'm like, that's not a good enough reason. What problem do you solve?
Right.
Okay? But anyways, so I had this proof, okay, I can solve this. But when I was presenting beta offers to clients, it wasn't more. I didn't have 10 different services like every other agency's website right now. You couldn't possibly be world-class at 10 different things, right? So focusing on one thing. And so I just looked at what is their problem? What is the lowest threshold of effort that I can solve it? And what is the highest price I'm willing to pitch to solve it in that amount of effort? And then what would be a way I would guarantee this doesn't come back to bite me? And so that 5K to almost 15K deal, in my mind, I was definitely creating it for them, but I was also creating it for me because I had to deliver it. And so I was thinking, what is a plan that will ensure I don't have to be on call all the time, that I don't have to hop on a meeting, that I don't have to respond to an email? What is so you mentioned a beta program. I hadn't thought of this perspective, but you're totally right. A beta program would sound like something you would do at a lower price. The price was almost fixed in my head that I was trying to make other, I don't want to say concessions, but other value points that would make the price seem kind of obsolete.
Right.
And the client could be like, oh, the true benefit is here. One of those was they were used to contracts, like a 6-month contract. I was like, there's no contract here. There's no cancellation fee. You just pay for the upcoming month. You can cancel anytime. If you cancel halfway through, I'll prorate it. If you don't like the work, I'll fire me. You don't have to fire me. If my breath stinks through the virtual meeting, get rid of me. You just say all these things and they're just like, yeah, I already know, like, and trust you. I already know you do good work. If you're quoting me this price, it's because it's valued at that. and beyond.
Nice.
And that's yeah. So I mean, beta offers is going to be, I mean, I'm not a sales genius, but for agency owners, it's going to be like my gift to the world, because it's literally like they already like you. They already say yes to you every month. Get them to say a higher leverage yes. And that's how we got from 1 million to 2.5. We only added like 10 clients that year.
Wow. It's really amazing. And one thing that you said that really sticks with me is often as agency owners, because I had a PR agency and then we ended up morphing into more of a full service. We didn't do everything, but that's part of the issue we have, right? Because we see a whole, like, oh, our clients need this and this and this. And then we have to hire up for that because I'm, no, something about UI and UX, but I'm not going to design a website. So then I have to hire the person to do that. And then we scale up our expenses. We scale up our revenue, but maybe not as much as we should because we want to hold on to these clients. And then we find ourselves in that position where we're saying yes to everything. We're not necessarily the best at everything we do. And I think that's a really common thing that I see with agencies is that they keep trying to add more capabilities because they want to retain all of the market share in their city, in their region, in that vertical, right? So how do you get people to get out of that mindset, like the people that you're working with, and really make sure that they're honing in on their sweet spot?
Yeah, it definitely depends on the individual's goals, right? Like when I first wanted to start autonomy agency, I was like, oh, a community would be amazing. And I would love to have 20 and 30 people in there. And then after a while, I was like, what do I know about a community? Just because it sounds cool doesn't mean I should do it, right? I base my whole career on speaking to clients one-on-one. What's your individual problem? And here is a not cookie cutter way to solve it. We're going to do it your way, right? So first of all, just total like kind of philosophical answer is like, if you don't build your agency by design, it gets built by default. And what you just described is by default, right? It's like, hey, our clients want this, so we need to add services and we need to add people and we need to add. Complexity is like one of the key contributors to burnout, straight up, right? So I think Warren Buffett said like successful people say no 90% of the time, right? So most agencies don't get past 5 years. I think the average is like 3.25, something like that. At least for 7-figure agencies, or I should say for 6-figure agencies, if you hit 7 figures, you can go a little longer. But anyways, what I would say to that is depending on the individual's goals, number one, but here are a couple options. One would be, I really like an easy to say yes to front end offer that leads to a back end offer, right? So like all of my individual clients right now, they had these really bloated delivery times. Like I have a branding expert. He used to deliver it in 3 months. I have a copywriter. She used to deliver it in 60 days and all that sort of stuff. The copywriter got hers down to 4 weeks. The branding person got theirs down to 60 days. And so it's one of those things, and they're charging, 40% more, but that's because there's more value. That's because it is a blue ocean offer and that sort of stuff. So you need less clients when you have a category of one, right? When you have such a good offer that is easy for you to deliver, you have more choice, right? And so if a client says, hey, we also need social media, like if you're doing SEO, I got that all the time. One of the mechanisms I would use is is the Chinese or the Japanese who ask why 5 times? Whatever it is, but I've always seen contracts as mutually beneficial. The client, I don't just do what the client wants because they want it. I do what I believe will work and what can be executed. So social media, objectively, great idea, right? But I'd have like a manufacturing company say, hey, we should be doing social media. Why? They'd say, well, we feel like we should have a larger presence. Okay, why? Blah, blah, blah. Why? You get to the point where they're just like, well, because social media sounds like a good idea. That's not a good enough reason.
Right. Have they done the market research? Do they know that that's where the audience is going to come in, right? Yeah.
Well, and then I would just be like, okay, so say we crush it. You're a manufacturing company. You saw metal. Are you going to get a 5-figure sale from a Facebook post?
Right.
Yes or no? No. Okay, we know you're paying for SEO and it's already working. So what I hear, clients, is there is more room for you to invest. And if you're going to invest, you'd rather put it in something that works, correct? I'm not saying social media can't work, but it's an unknown. Can we agree to that? Yes. Then why don't we do more for SEO? That's another way you can upsell, just for the record. Like your job, especially as an agency owner serving a client directly, is to guide them to the most streamlined and like impactful result. And so I would argue, again, if you're doing social media and doing SEO, like you should be doing all these things to a degree if it makes sense for you. But only one of those is going to like super crush for you more than likely, unless you're a unicorn.
Oh.
And so my mission would be focus over, it's kind of like, let's go a mile deep
Yeah.
instead of a mile wide and an inch deep.
Right.
Right. And I personally feel like a part of every single one of my clients' businesses. And so I don't like wasting their money.
Mm.
Somebody asked me to give an SEO synopsis for them. I looked at their website. I looked at their competitors. They want to pay for SEO. And I said, you shouldn't do it. Not now. Like I said, unless you're going to run this for 10 years, you shouldn't spend money on SEO right now. And they were so pleased that I said, hey, you're one of the only people who would tell us not to spend money.
Wow.
It's like, yeah, because my job's not to take money from you. My job's to get a result.
Yeah.
Right. And so the kind of core front end offer to like show them that they're in the right spot, and then an amazing back end offer so you don't have to keep fishing yourself, that sort of stuff. I find that they tend to reveal themselves. Right. And so like obviously all my clients right now, they're creating a brand new offer that's way better than what they've done in the past. They're coming to me for a reason. It hasn't felt that good. And now it will. Another one, just really simply, is you don't have to say yes and do everything. If you're really good at web design, but you're not good at like application development or something like that, don't do it. Other people are, and they need clients too.
Right.
And so build up your network and then get a kickback of 10%, 20%, whatever. And now you have this amazing answer for every single client who's like, and we also need this. Great. I've already sent 10 clients to this person. I can vouch for them. They do an amazing job. In the industry, that's passive income, right?
Yeah.
So like you don't have to do everything. Full service, I think my honest belief with full service is that only the top 1% will ever be able to be full service and like actually, use Meta as a social platform, for instance. It's terrible. So full service is going to be a terrible product, and people are going to want niche and specialists, and they will go to multiple places to get it so long as it's manageable to them. And so there's never been a better time to just focus on one core problem that you think will be around for at least 5 to 10 years and only solve that.
I really like that construct. And one thing I know with myself, like many entrepreneurs, is we always have a lot more ideas, right? And so they might not be like, I've had a PR firm. I help people out on a very limited basis, friends and people who need some coaching or some help with stuff. But I'm not like, I don't want a PR agency again. I've done that, right? I've done that world, not planning to go back.
It's a tough gig.
Yeah. I have a lot of other things I'm interested in. And so I've been finding like, that core offering based on what are people asking me the most, what they need my help with the most, where am I finding the most success that I've built organically for myself, right? And I've tried a lot of different things so that I can go and I am a subject matter expert in that area. So I can say, hey, I've tried this, this, and this. Here's what works for me. Now let's talk about what would work for you. And so it's really interesting when you get to that point, because I do, to your point, like I do a lot of different things, not, I work for nonprofit, I teach grad school, I'm a mom, all these different things. But then I have to really focus on like, what's going to be that sweet spot that I want to stay in for the next however many years so that I don't reach that burnout point. Because even though you primarily work with digital marketing agencies, some of them are also, maybe adjunct professors or have lives and have other things going on. So they have to think about, how do you get to that point where you're able to scale back, make sure that work is manageable so that you actually have a life? I mean, you said you have 3 kids under the age of 4. So the fact that you are working that many hours while you're starting to raise your family is, I can see why you burned out. And to the audience, when we scheduled this interview, it was sometime last year. So we were originally going to talk about your agency, not necessarily about the burnout. So
100%.
Look at how things change, right? But the right thing happened. Like, we're talking about this when we need to be talking about it.
Well, you had said at the top, if I can be interviewer for a second, you said like 2025 has been pretty wild for your schedule. Like you don't have to get in detail, right? Obviously protect your stuff, but like what's the general feeling that is contributing to that? Do you think like what's happening that's contributing to it?
Well, I live in LA. So the fires were the start of our year. I wasn't affected because I'm on the other side, but I have a lot of students because I teach grad school at USC. I work for a nonprofit that has an online school attached. A lot of our students there were also affected. I'm a single mom. So that also, right? Like working on that. I have podcasts. And I'm also getting my MBA. So all of those things kind of pile on top of each other. I do have an end in mind, so I see where it's going. But it is a point where I've been going, gosh, I mean, I've definitely felt burned out. And, add on top of that, all of the different things happening in our political systems in the world, like feels like the world's on fire sometimes. And as a small business owner, I mean, I was just on a call today with a whole bunch of small business owners. We don't know what's going to happen with our tax situation, or some of the business owners I was talking to have SBA loans. So there's a lot of uncertainty. And I think that just adds and compounds to anything else that we're feeling in the normal course of just trying to get our businesses done and delivered to our clients.
Yeah. And that is a lot. So I'm sure I'm not the first, but let me be one of hopefully the many who is fully supportive of just, I have this saying, you have to feel good to do good.
Yeah.
And, you don't have to feel good every day. I certainly don't feel good every day, but to do sustainable good, you have to have some sort of way to feel have mechanisms to feel good. Right. And so a lot of what you said there, first of all, you're way more of a badass than me. So congrats on that. That's intense. But I don't want to be the person who's oh, you're doing such a great job, just keep going, because that's not helpful either. Right. So this isn't hey, do this. This is just what, I'll share my personal bit with that sort of stuff, especially when you mentioned the political stuff and all that. I can tell you right now, one of the big contributors to my burnout was I was fascinated with when Russia invaded Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
And I got a New York Times. I even would put on my calendar to read 30 minutes a day of just New York Times stuff, listening to NPR every time I was in the car, all that sort of stuff. It doesn't matter what political leanings you have. It really doesn't.
No.
But what I learned was that in hindsight, I didn't learn it during, how big of a contributor that was to me feeling as anxious as I was. Just to be perfect, I'm very transparent about it. In my 2 burnouts in the same year, I thought I was going to die both times.
Oh my
of course,
God.
I was nowhere near death. It's just that's what anxiety does to you, right? Although my heart did stop on the plane to New York for 45 seconds. So that was kind of wild. But anyways, it was the same thing with the agency. I realized I was saying yes to everything. And so this is probably going to be split down the middle. 50% of people are going to be totally get it. That's logical. And 50% of people are going to be I hate this guy, but I shut it all off. I have probably watched no more than 30 minutes of news in the last 2.5 years. And I still voted before anyone calls me out and that sort of stuff.
I think what you're saying is really important, because those are things outside of our control.
Yeah.
And so really external factors affect us, and that makes us less able to concentrate on our families, on our jobs, on our businesses, and getting to the point where we can have that freedom and flexibility that many of us crave, right? I mean, I know there's also the side of, like you said, there's the business owners who are in it because they want to make a lot of money really fast and they don't mind grinding it out. They're going to experience burnout at some point too. Let's be all honest and real. But then there are those of us who also want to have job, satisfaction and life satisfaction, and be able to give time to people who are most important to us, which we can't do if we're working 40, 50, 60, 80 hours a week. So there has to be a happy medium.
Yeah. And what I kind of something I'm being very observant of right now, the reason I got into this too, again, was because one of the key decisions I made post second burnout was kind of you hear, your life is kind of dictated by the people you surround yourself with. And the people I had surrounded myself with up to that point were not bad people. They were just not at the level I was trying to be. So I don't say that, those people still exist. I still interact with them. But in terms of if I'm trying to level up or fuel my ambition, which I don't think is a dirty word, by the way, they're not it. And that's fine. It's kind of I call it past self and new self, right? And so I networked with a lot of people and all types. I wasn't saying no to anybody in terms of, I just want to see what's out there, whether they were a perfect fit or whatever. I had no intention of, I did this through LinkedIn, by the way. I had no intention of hopping on LinkedIn and selling anything. I was just I just want to, what's the world got? Let's see what they have to say, right? So conversations like this, I love.
Yeah.
Right. And something that's been happening recently, because I still do that, is I basically have 2 people coming to me now, 2 kind of avatars,
Mm.
if we want to sound businessy. Is one is like the person who I can serve,
Mhm.
right? Or at least could serve in the future. And that's another thing I would say is don't be in a rush. Like if you want to make a ton of money, I honestly believe the long way is the shortcut. And so I'm about to say what the second group is, because the second group is people who are looking for the thing.
Mhm.
Maybe it's AI right now, or
Right.
maybe it's, maybe it's outsourcing, or maybe it's like having a VA agency, or maybe it's blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, I was that person.
Right. Yeah.
I tried drop shipping. I started a side agency. I was like doing copywriting on the side and all this. None of it satisfies, whether you make money or not. And why is that? Because you're looking for an outward thing. If you want to find the way to make a ton of money and be happy about it, you should, like, same thing with the news, shut it all off. Most people I talk to don't know themselves at all.
Wow. Yeah. Well, that's a whole other conversation that we could have, because I also I work with a former Zen monk on a lot of that stuff too. And that's something I've
There
been
you go.
working on. So,
Yeah.
but because self-mastery, the inner work, knowing who you are, loving yourself, that all really does play so strongly into how we communicate effectively, with how we make sure that we're working with the people who are the people we're supposed to be working with, whether that's,
Yeah. And
you know,
I noticed on your profile the icky guy, right? Like that's a really good start. Is like so few people even know about the icky guy. People that you and I talk to every day know about it because they're working on those things. But most of the world has no clue what the icky guy is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, so let's talk about that sweet spot that you found, because you've only had this new agency, autonomy agency, for 7 weeks at this
Yeah.
point. You have 6 clients. How did you scale so quickly? What was it? Did you were having these conversations, you met the right people? I'm imagining you haven't been able to do that much outreach in terms of like blog posts and having a pretty website and all of the different things that people normally, traditionally think of.
Yeah. Well, technically the company has existed, but it really didn't make it's like anything reasonable until like January 1st of this year. I only say that because I left my agency August 30, and then I've been in marketing for 12 years at that point. I was like, oh, I have the skills. I'll create a great offer in a couple of weeks and it'll sell a couple of weeks later and like all that sort of stuff. Like, and I had built a network. So I was like, people I know, someone will buy it, like that kind of thing. And then you realize again, I was looking outward, and that's where I like started the community thing. Or right now we're basically on the other side of the Alex Hormozyism of offers, where everyone's looking for something new again because they bought an offer that overpromised and underdelivered because it's $100 million offer style.
Yep.
And you realize like that's why it took me kind of, I would say like 3 iterations from August until January to get to what I have now.
Yeah.
And so to answer your question, it's interesting because I didn't put it into any one channel. Like somebody might listen to this and be like, what's the thing? Right. I have an email newsletter. It's not like crazy popular. That's one of my only goals this year, is to get it to over 1,000 subscribers, because I will do damage if I have 1,000 good people. But more importantly, I weirdly love writing email. I had no clue that I would like it so much. It's like probably one of my favorite things. And so that's incredibly important because I want to build this business for decades, not days. Right. Yeah. And so what do you enjoy doing? That's another thing I would say with an ikigai, is just literally write down everything you hate. I call it the anti-vision, right? You're going to be able to rattle those off. Instead of looking for the thing, let's identify the exact not thing, right? And so I didn't want something that required me to hop on a billion sales calls. I didn't want something that required me to meet with people weekly. Like I wanted to only work with A players who needed help on a very specific thing. And so I could offer a whole lot more. People were asking me all the time, like, why wouldn't you sell SEO? It's like, because I don't want to. I don't care if I'd be good at it. I don't care if I can make a lot of money from it. I don't want to do it. I actually still have like just a tiny bit of SEO contract work from leaving the agency. I'm literally doing a ton of videos right now, delegating it to the VA I pay for, so I don't have to do it. So it's, how did I scale so fast? Honestly, I don't want to sound like a noob here, but when you have clarity on exactly what you're meant to do, and it does stand out, I have a blue ocean offer. I do.
There you go. That's a full circle.
Yeah, but I do. Yeah. And it's so I don't teach these people anything that I haven't personally done. I have 13 years of experience I have been where most people want to go, multiple seven figures or at least seven figures. That's why I help six-figure agency owners. We did that with a lean team. So it was very systems based. You don't have to hire a ton of people. Like we were higher revenue numbers than people who had like 3 times the employees as we did. I don't even know how they did that.
Yeah.
But then kind of the way it's set up too is I have a very clear promise and guarantee. And then I also do not like people waiting on me. So every single client gets direct access. They get my personal cell and I promise to respond to them within 24 hours, even on the weekends. It's like the mission for me is to get you to where you want to go. So you feel like you can fire me, no problem.
Oh, yeah.
You're like, hey, I'm good enough now. I don't need your help anymore. This is great. And you'll always have my number and you can always like, let me know if you need more time or help on something specific. But and the final thing that makes it blue ocean is, which is hard for some people to grasp because this is what they're sold, but they're sold like a very specific system with very specific tools, step by step by step. And it's just like, I don't do that. What's your biggest problem right now? Is it time management? Okay. Everything else is on the side until we get it.
Thanks.
Is it, you feel really good with your time? You don't love your clients right now? Sweet. We're going to categorize your clients into 4 buckets: low paying, high maintenance, high paying, low maintenance, on and on. Then we're going to come up with an action plan for them. And then we're going to make sure that we maximize the value out of the people who you want to keep. And then we maintenance mode the people you don't. Like we solve one problem at a time. And until that problem is solved, the highest priority problem, we're not doing anything else. Because it's insane to me that people think they need leads and are constantly getting fed leads. Hey, you need more leads. So I kid you not, Annika, somebody messaged me yesterday saying they would get me 200 qualified leads this week. If you somehow do that impossible thing, I'm going to hate my life. And B, you can't do it. So don't advertise. But you don't need leads. There's 0 point in solving the leads problem if you're already working 70 hours a week. You don't know how to serve the 20 clients you do have in less than 70 hours a week. What on earth makes you think, oh, I'll add another 20 clients and that'll solve the problem? Crazy. But like, this is how people are speaking every day. And so I'm a little bit passionate about it because to me, that is somebody's life. And all they need is, they don't even have to work with me. If they can just listen to the message and be like, oh yeah, that's crazy. And I don't feel guilty about it. I was just like, I was so in the weeds that now, light bulb moment. That's good enough for me. I'm not going to work with everybody. I don't want to work with everybody. But like, anyone who's listening to this, who has ever thought I need more leads, 9 out of 10 of those people are wrong. I firmly believe it.
I mean, I think there are so many things that we could continue talking about. And we will definitely to be continued this, whether it's with another episode or just the two of us getting on a chat and talking about some things. But I agree with that sentiment. It's not about the number of leads. It's about the quality. It's about the people that you really want to work with, making sure you're getting in front of the right people. And it does sound, one thing that I heard you say is that it did take a few iterations for you to figure out exactly what you wanted to offer, who you wanted to offer it to, and how you wanted to work to make sure that you had that quality of life with the income, with the working fewer hours that you wanted to achieve.
For sure. Yeah. And there's so much power in like, you hate it and it's cliche when you don't have it. And I want to be abundantly clear. Like I am 35. So for basically 16 and a half years, I had no clue what I was doing or wanted to do. I was talented. I was always a top performer everywhere I was, but it didn't feel great. And so like, it is completely undervalued how much time it takes to find the thing. And ironically, you don't find the thing by looking for it. You find the thing by paying attention, right? People ask me a lot, like, how do you avoid burnout now? I wasn't paying attention. Every time my body was starting to say like, yo, you need to chill, or somebody offered something to me and I was like, I should probably say no to this, but I said yes to it anyway. It's like, I wasn't paying attention. And when people ask like, how did you become a coach for this? I say kicking and screaming. I didn't want to coach other people. I have to do it because I'm called to do it.
Yeah.
Because I was paying attention. I'm already in a position, not earning 7 figures yet, although I will someday, I have no doubt about it, of waking up every day being like, I am so freaking lucky. But guess what it took to do that? I had to walk away from a sure thing in my agency I had to say no to something that was, by all accounts and purposes, like, don't screw this up thing, keep it, because I believed in myself and because the evidence was so clear that I was the person to help this population of people. So, okay, you can look at it and say, lucky, you're lucky. I earned it.
And that's, you have to walk away from things that don't serve you, even if they look like they're amazing deals. I've walked away from many 6-figure VP roles, even in the past, 3 to 4 years. I've walked away from at least 2 of those at agencies where I could have stayed and made that check, but I wasn't fulfilled and I knew it wasn't the right place for me and it wasn't what I was supposed to be doing. And so I think that's the big lesson here is, like you said, listen to what the world is telling you, listen to what your body is telling you, listen to what people are asking you for, because somewhere in there is that magic spot where you're living in Ikigai. You're living in purpose with your passion, your talents, your skill set, and you're able to wake up with a smile on your face every day. So Colby, we're going to lead people to autonomyagency.com. Do you have one final, word of wisdom that you want to share with people?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is basically kind of the whole thing, but I'll keep it super brief because you're right. I could monologue. You didn't say that directly, but I could. Is so many people, again, I just say, like, looking outward. If you can do anything, like, find a way to look inward. Like, the world doesn't care. You don't even remember what you had for lunch 2 Tuesdays ago. Stop thinking that everybody cares and is watching you. They're not. Right? It is incredibly powerful for you to just be like, okay, the news doesn't serve me. This relationship doesn't serve me. You're not being selfish. You're being observant and you're being rigid. You have boundaries and constraints. If you do that for long enough, you turn into the person that everyone else looks at and says, man, how is Annika crushing it? So, like, what has she done? What has she figured it out? You respected yourself before you respected everyone else. There's enough to go around. But if you respect everyone else and put yourself last, you're screwed.
100%. 100%.
So you're not selfish. You're just distracted.
And do you have, adding to that, a favorite quote, mantra, verse, family motto?
Well, I have a personal motto. I think I invented this one. I'll give you one I invented and one I didn't invent. So my personal motto is I'm addicted to solutions, not feeling good. Because if I can find the solution, I'll find a way to feel good. Like, it's just another problem to solve. But if I prioritize feeling good over the right thing to do, then I'm doing it wrong. The second one that I think is just valuable to everybody, I literally sent it to one of my clients today, is impatience with actions, patience with results. Like, I know I'll make 7 figures for this business because I am impatient with actions and I'm not desperate or in a hurry to get to 7 figures.
Fantastic. I know a lot of people are going to have questions for you, want to reach out to you. And I just appreciate that this conversation, like most, I find when I have them, it just comes at the perfect time for what we need, what my listeners need, what I need to hear in that moment. And just thanks again for joining me on Your Brand Amplified.
Yeah, no, thanks. Amazing questions. And I will say, keep going, though, because you're doing amazing stuff. So keep at it.
Thanks. I appreciate it. And thank you to everybody who's watching this episode or listening to it on your favorite platform. Leave us a rating, review, reach out to Colby, look at his agency work. Even if you're not a digital agency, I am 100% sure that you'll find something of value if you follow him on LinkedIn, listen to some of his interviews, check out his website. And with that, I'll be back again with another amazing guest to share their story, their journey, and some tips and tricks for you very shortly.
Thanks for listening or watching to this episode of Your Brand Amplified. Don't forget to leave us a rating or review on your favorite podcast listening platform. And if you want to learn more, check us out at yourbandamplified.com.